Thank you for listening to the Unscripted Dreams Podcast with Joe and Marcus. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email us at unscripteddreams@gmail.com. If you're interested in listening to exclusive content that includes bonus episodes and our hindsight video series, please join us on Patreon at the Unscripted Dreams Podcast. If you're listening to our podcast on YouTube, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. Thank you.
As we know, life is full of surprises, both good and bad. The day-to-day journey is full of unforeseen obstacles, and sometimes it's hard to see our way through. Beyond the norm and mundane are where unscripted dreams live. Join us for thought-provoking discussions and interviews to help us navigate through the fog and create our own path. We are the Unscripted Dream Podcast, operating outside the margins to motivate and inspire our audience. So today's episode literally is on the topic of interconnected. So basically what interconnected means is it's some type of connection that has multiple points or levels of connection through a powerful entity, potentially. I mean, ideally, that's what we're getting to. So it would be something that you have connections to that work in your favor. You have a good rapport with a person, entity, or what have you. And it's something you can more or less use for your benefit. What do you think about that, Marcus?
Well, just the concept of interconnection. In connection, I mean, we'll probably use the terms interchangeably throughout this episode, but just things that have multiple connections,
Right.
like more than just like a two-dimensional kind of a relation to one another. And one of the things, I guess, I kind of will start off by just saying what got me thinking about just discussing this concept, and it's a very broad concept. So it's, I did my best to kind of boil it down to just kind of one area or a couple areas. But I was watching this video, and it was a video just kind of talking about the situation with the millions of people who have lost their job recently due to the virus, continues to rise. And I was watching this video about the auto industry, and what I was taking away from this video and what the gentleman was discussing was how people are working from home. And, what he added on to that, you have to think about, how that one thing connects to so much more than what people just not having to physically go to, a workplace or go to an office. So when you think about it, like when you think of having to go work from home, like Joe, you work from home, you're relegated to
Right.
work. I actually had to physically go into work due to the nature of the work that I do. But when you think about someone who's working from home, and you think about what all ties into that, think about people. I mean, if you're working from home now, that's for the people who are in the fuel business, in the oil business, that's less fuel revenue. People also, because people are working from home, they're putting less miles on their vehicle. They're not driving as much.
Right.
So that's less miles on the vehicle. You're not spending as much money in gas. And due to that, you're not having as many maintenance issues with your car. And also, if people are working and they don't feel the need to drive, or they don't have to drive, and their vehicle is going to last longer because they're not using it as much, that'll decrease the amount of cars that are sold. And it also, that goes into, if you're working from home, you're not going out and buying professional attire. So the sales in that market drop off. And then, inventory backs up with the auto manufacturers. And that affects vehicle parts, that affects jobs. It really, it's like you would think that simple thing, for some people, they would think that simple thing is isolated, but it really there's many things that are connected to the fact that someone has to work from home. And it runs deeper than the things that I'll just explain here. But
So would that be considered like correct me if I'm wrong, but like a paradigm, like a paradigm shift?
a paradigm shift?
Just because all the things we're used to are not going to be the same anymore. So and that's what I mean in that essence, like how we spend our money, how we're going to do certain things as far as even like culture based things. You have a lot of people that are probably not going to participate for obvious reasons. And then you're going to have other people that are going to act out irrationally because those people aren't trying to do the norm because of what's happening right now. So altogether, there's going to have to be some type of shift. You already see companies like breaking down and stuff like that. So it's very different on how people are choosing to not only spend their money, but also their lifestyle has changed. I know mine has changed. I was a very outgoing person, and this year I have yet to set foot in a bar.
Oh, wow. Huh.
So what I'm trying to say is someone that was a big spender, not at one, but someone that would go on special nights and get food, you're still making money and taking my money. Now I have all this cash, well, not cash, but these funds that's just sitting there and just stacking at this point. So what do you do?
Yeah, and I think with that, Joe, I think it really ties into it. Really with, kind of like everything that's going on that has caused like people to work from home, people to spend more time inside, and less people just, being able to go out and do what they're accustomed to. It's really like a shockwave that continues to reverberate, because now you have to think about how things are happening now in which, like, if you're not going to the bar, you're not the only one who's not going out. So, things are, so now that, connects to the person that is operating those businesses and the hours that they have and how things function and the employees that are working there, so just like so many levels, these things that, you think it really just affects you, but there's so much more than what's kind of on the surface. And, that's what I'm trying to draw attention to, is just the multiple levels of connection that we kind of, some that we don't always necessarily see.
Exactly. Interconnectedness, people.
Right. So there's a couple concepts that I'm gonna get into. Like I said, I'm focused more on the like marketing, advertisement, things like that. But I did want to address what, we just discussed. And this is the one is the trickle down effect. And this is not to be confused with trickle down economics. That's another concept. so the trickle down effect more so relates to like fashion. So it's like the concept that people with like high socioeconomic status, they have product. They purchase goods, more expensive goods, new products are introduced. Some new products are introduced to them first, and they're more costly. But in time when something new comes out, that price eventually falls. So, and then one thing with this concept is that, we've seen this, like you've seen this, you just may have not known there was a name for it. So people that maybe have a lower status, they'll attempt to, initiate or not initiate, but imitate what the high status or high wealth folks are doing. So they can kind of share that status so it goes top down. So people have created this connection with, people who you see somebody, and it's really like keeping up with the Joneses, but you're not even next door to the Joneses. You're in a completely different neighborhood on the other end of town. So, it's really just a concept of saying that you're trying to, be something that maybe you're not in, because your perception of what these people have at these high status levels, that society puts those statuses on people. And sometimes those people at those higher levels, they assist in promoting those statuses. So, and it just kind of repeats. So you'll see like a celebrity or something in an ad, or you'll see like all the like stuff on the what was it, like the red carpet at these premieres and these award shows and the advertisements and everything. And you'll see they're like, oh, this person is wearing this designer or something to be trending on social media, and they'll want to be kind of connected to these people, and they feel like, well, if I buy this item, I'll be on that level, or I'll be perceived as someone who has that status because I'm wearing something, or I have a product that other people who kind of promote this idea of the status have. So, those things are kind of having an effect. They have an effect on people that you might not see, but in a little bit here, I'm gonna take it to another level. But I just wanted to break that one down first.
I think that was a good way to capture that, based on having that following up after our introductory conversation about goods and how those are changing right before our eyes. I mean, they change at any given time, but we're happen to be at a point in our lives at this point in the world where things are changing on a whole bunch of levels at once.
Yeah. So, Joe, I want to get, I really want to get, because I know what you initially said about like using these things to your advantage, kind of these things that are going on. And I really want to get into that. I like to get into that a little bit more. But I wanted to first just go through, I guess, a little bit like something like another thing, which is artificial scarcity. and if, and
What
if
is
you're
that?
not, so if you're not familiar with artificial scarcity, it's the intentional limitation of like products supply, to increase the demand and the price of items. So you'll see, Joe, I know you've seen this, but like you go to McDonald's, what is one of the like limited supply like items like the McRib or something? Like it comes back.
Yeah, that's
Out.
seasonal. That's
Yeah,
seasonal.
yeah. So it's things like that, like seasonal items. Other things where they say limited time only, or on the packaging it'll say limited time only. There are
Oh,
stores,
those Shamrock shakes. Yep.
yeah, like all that stuff. Like there are stores here, um, in Myrtle Beach. Like there are stores out here. They are always going out of business.
Liquidation sales.
But they're always going out of business. So so that's the thing, is that they create this sense like, oh man, you're getting a good deal, but I mean that's just marketing. That's just marketing. I think it's funny that they're able to operate like that, but the tourism is heavy here, so I mean for them they're
You
probably only
wouldn't.
there for a
Yeah,
week. So
you wouldn't know.
you know, but I mean that's sometimes you see like one thing is like one item is left in stock when you're ordering stuff online and things like that. I think we talked about that in that consumerism episode.
Mm-hmm.
But another item, which is a high, like one of the bigger items, maybe more expensive items that we see are diamonds with artificial scarcity. So diamonds, believe it or not, these are not rare items. It's just the companies that control the mines. They strategically control how frequently they supply the market. So they create the demand, but they're not rare items. I mean, they can make a synthetic diamond now.
Actually,
But
most people use them now.
yeah, so it's like it's not, and that's artificial scarcity. Just like making something scarce that isn't really scarce. Just creating a perception that it's not going to be around very long. And the one that I think some of us will be able to relate to, and this is what I wanted to break down, was the concept of people buying Air Jordans or Jordans basketball shoes. So there's a book I read it a while back. It's called "It's the Personal MBA" by Josh Kaufman. Now, if you're not familiar, MBA is a Master's of Business Administration degree. So he talks about the 5 basic human drives for the concept of this discussion we're having. I'm only going to discuss 3, but the 3 I'm going to discuss is, a drive to acquire. So, let me backtrack. The basic human drives are things that theoretically we all have. So these are things that like businesses use. But like I said, number 1, the drive to acquire. And this is just people's, desire to have physical objects, to have like status and power. And then there's a second drive, which is the drive to bond, which is, just to feel valued, be well liked, be perceived as attractive. Then the last one I add here is just the drive to feel, which is, to have new experiences like entertainment, anticipation, and things. And like I said, status also. But when we're speaking about, connection, like how like businesses appeal to these human drives, essentially human nature. And the one thing with like Jordans with his shoes is that part of the Jordan marketing is artificial scarcity, because you see people lining up, right? They're lining up for these shoes, and you know there's a you know there's a drive to acquire, because you know in some circles having Jordans gives you a certain kind of status,
Yep.
and there's a drive to buy them, because I mean, I know when I was growing up, if you were wearing Jordans, you got attention for that. People, you might have been a little bit more popular because you had those shoes, and we know how much they cost, and can everybody afford those? And then there's also, like I said, the drive to feel, and that's the anticipation of just the shoes are being released, and just the excitement that's involved in that. And I mean, Jordan has so many shoes now that it's limited. I mean, there's a release schedule. Am I right about that, Joe?
Yes, there's a release schedule that's typically about several months out. It changes at any given time, but they give you an idea of when they're going to release stuff.
So this artificial scarcity that Nike creates with the Jordan brand of, it's hidden. I mean, they're hidden on every level. I mean, well, on at least three of the five levels that I've mentioned. But, think about, how that system is structured, and how, artificial scarcity tied in is connected to your basic human drives, and how by creating that, you're more inclined to want to get this product. You're more excited. You think it's going to give you this status, and it's going to make people like you because you have it. So these systems that are in place, I think it's important to take a look at, how we're connected to these systems, and some of the strategies and some of the tactics that, influence our behavior.
Right.
But that was what I have for that. I think that makes sense, but I know you all will let me know that you're listening. So, but that was really the last thing that I had on that. I just wanted to really draw attention to some of the things that you're connected, that, what we're all connected to. We might just not understand. We might not understand that. And, it kind of goes back to EQ. I hate to say it, as much as I say, it kind of goes back to EQ a little bit, but that's it. That's it there. So, I mean, Joe, what do you think about, I mean, I know you meant, like I said, you mentioned like connection and how you can use it to your advantage. What do you think, like how people can use that interconnectedness to their advantage?
Well, to keep it familiar or keep it funky with people, so we aren't jumping all over the place. When I think of interconnectedness, I think of not only what you speak of, as far as how everything trickles down the line and impacts you. That's very true, especially when you deal with people. So, for a perfect example is when I think of interconnectedness, say that you are that person that buys Jordans for the status appeal, right? You're going to find the connection, right? Maybe you have a motive on top of buying these shoes. Maybe not only do you get yourself a pair, you buy additional pairs so you can also pay for your pair for free, because you're selling these at I don't know, maybe close to twice as much as they were for retail price. People really do this. So how are you going to get these shoes? You need a connection, right? Most places you can't just buy one shoe at one space. And if you do, more than likely you're interconnected. And what I mean by interconnected is you have somebody that is, for layman's terms, the plug. So they are connected. Maybe they work for a shoe industry or shoe company that distributes the shoe, and they can release, or they have some type of way where they can basically jerry rig the system, and you can purchase multiple shoes. Or maybe you have a system set up where you have your laptop, more than one phone, maybe using a friend's phone or whatever, and you might have your own desktop. That's like several computers in one right there. Maybe you're able to access that information, and ready alone that you got your own little business going on there. So that's what I mean by interconnection. Like, either you're buying or selling, that's that's one thing. But in order to get to those points, you have to build connections or have resources to obtain those things, especially if they're a scarcity, as Marcus mentioned before. So that's what I mean by that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, watch out for these tactics out here. But also, kind of just adding on to what you were saying is, just like you said, just figure out how to use it to your advantage, and think about the implications of your actions, day to day, and how your actions and the actions of others will, impact you and how you can benefit from understanding, different concepts and understanding just, how things are connected. And I think sometimes we do things and we know there's a reason that we do it, and we go through this process of like deduction and problem solving, and we're connecting the dots. We're connecting the dots, and that allows us to, at times come to a solution that doesn't, everybody doesn't see. So I think that's one of the key things to take away from it is, just think about how you can benefit from what other people don't see, from the connections that you're able to make that maybe other people, aren't aware of or aren't.
Exactly.
So, but and the last thing, and this is kind of just me talking about some other stuff, but there's a show, it fits in with the kind of the theme of this episode. It's a show, it's on Amazon. It's called Tales from the Loop. And it's a great story. I think it got maybe released a few months ago, but it's this story about this town and everything's connected, but not like connected in a weird way, like a sci-fi way. It's a sci-fi show. So it's a great show if you're interested in seeing the story about how if you like sci-fi and you're interested in watching something that kind of shows this really interesting take on connection, interconnection, you should really check it out. It's about this town that has this what's the word? I'm trying to think of the best word to explain it. There's this technology that allows this town to operate at a completely different frequency than everywhere else. So it's pretty interesting to watch and to see. And like I said, it's sci-fi, but every episode in this show, there's a lesson in it. One show doesn't quite fit, in my opinion, but that one episode doesn't fit, in my opinion. But there's some life lessons to be learned in this this show as well, which I thought was pretty neat. But if you're interested in, watching something that kind of is related to what we're discussing here, that's a show I recommend because I liked it a lot. I probably rewatch it actually. But that's it. That's my last little bit.
Yeah, I'm about to check that out for myself, man.
Yeah. So, but that's all we had on this. Joe, are you good, man?
Yeah, I'm more than good.
All right.
I think that as we continue to bring you content, we're just going to keep talking these points through and get you on the right path of wherever you need to be. So when you think of being interconnected, I just want you to make it your mission to use it to your advantage just as much as companies use it to their advantage. And I'm not saying it's right, but that's the way of the world.
I agree with you, man. But that's all you got, man. As always, man, take care, be safe.
Later.
Yeah, I'm